Hey guys, this is Matthew, and welcome back to Nerd News. Today, we've got a Marvel Legends figure review coming out for you right now, and this time around, it's the Walgreens exclusive Silver Centurion Iron Man armor. So I didn't even know that this figure was out. I'm not really a hardcore Marvel Legends collector. At best, I would call myself casual, but even that, I'll buy a bunch here and there. I like them a lot, but it's not something I go hunting for. However, I just happened to stumble upon this guy at a local Walgreens, and the Silver Centurion armor really is one of my favorite looks for Iron Man, so yeah, I had to get this guy. So first up, let's discuss the packaging here, and really, I don't need to spend much time on this because if you've ever seen a Marvel Legends figure at all in the past 5 to 10 years or however long Hasbro's been doing it, you've seen the box, you know what they look like. There's really nothing special here to talk about whatsoever. You've got a really large window display in the front, which gives you an excellent look at the toy and all the accessories it comes with, and you can see this Iron Man does have a lot. The side of the box has an illustration of the Silver Centurion Iron Man suit. And the back of the box has a very large photo that looks like it's the hand-painted prototype, along with a very, very short bio about the character, which all it really says is Tony Stark jets back from obscurity in Silver Centurion armor, a breathtaking technological achievement equipped with a unibeam, force field, and rapid-fire pulse bolt. Okay, I mean, well, at least we know what's in the toy. It doesn't really give us much context to the comic, and if you haven't read the comics where it comes out, I recommend you guys do that, but you don't need to appreciate this figure. The one interesting thing to note about this figure, though, is the prototype photo that we're using in the back of this box here. You guys can see that Iron Man's eyes are painted black with little yellow dots for his pupils. But as you guys can kind of sort of see here, the figure only has white slits. There's no actual paint detail in those eyes. Which one I would have liked more, I don't really know, to be honest, but I think I kind of would have liked the yellow dots a little bit more, but the fact that they're not there doesn't bother me either. But again, you've seen this packaging time and time again. I don't need to waste any more time on it. So why don't we just go ahead now and take out this Silver Centurion Iron Man and get a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Silver Centurion Iron Man now out of the box. I will say, right out of the box, he looks a little silly because these are the hands that are packaged with him. Maybe not the best choice to have him posed like that, but these are his repulsor beam shooting hands, so it kind of makes sense. And I guess we're going to be checking articulation off the bat because, yeah, I want to see these move. Looks like these actually do not. They're pretty much always meant to be permanently in this position here. So, well, maybe I should actually swap those hands out real quick just to show you how that works, because he does have an additional pair of hands. That's some closed fists, so yeah, I'm going to do that to kick things off here. Normally I wouldn't do that, but I feel better knowing that. So let's just go ahead, put a closed fist in one arm, and there we go. That looks a little better now. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get this thing now officially started. So yeah, if you've seen one Iron Man figure before from Marvel Legends, you've really kind of seen them all. But believe it or not, I actually don't own a lot of these toys, so it's a little bit newish to me. I do own like a rescue figure. I own a War Machine or two. I haven't actually bought a Tony Stark Iron Man yet, so this is, I think, actually my first Marvel Legends Iron Man figure proper. So yeah, go figure. It's going to be Silver Centurion. So let's talk about this plastic here, because as you can see, it's got a really nice kind of luster to it. It all has this really kind of metallic sheen, which is great for the Silver Centurion look. And all Iron Man armors, it has to look like this. But Silver Centurion in particular really needs to kind of pop with that unique silver and red tone to it. And I think it very much does. I mean, you talk about Iron Man armor, I feel like there's normally a lot more to talk about and dive into. But this is kind of an older Iron Man suit. So, back then details were a little bit different, and the way they were designed was a little bit different. So it's a lot simpler, but I think it still looks really cool. And it is fairly accurate to how it looked in the comic. I mean, maybe not 110% there, but it's close enough for what it is. It seems like a lot of this is some new pieces, at least when there is tooling. I think this is a new butt piece. This chest piece is new. Obviously, these shoulders are new. But legs and arms, I think those are things we've seen before in other Marvel Legends figures. So I'm not going to really spend a ton of time talking about that, but for the sake of argument, I will show you guys how the articulation works. And it looks like this Iron Man does have a ball-jointed head that's very kind of wobbly and fun. We do have shoulders here. I want to see if these are actually butterfly joints or if these are just articulated. No, okay, so I was wondering if these shoulder parts here are going to be able to actually be articulated. They're not, but they do move in the way that, not like a butterfly joint where that meant the arms would have gotten closer together. But they do move, and that's actually a big deal because these are usually joints that can hinder a figure's movement. So I like that those actually do move up and down. We do have the bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. That's always good. These wrists, these actually do go left and right a little bit. The other ones we saw did not move at all. The buck can move up and down, torso moves, and yeah, leg articulation, exactly the same as you've seen in any Marvel Legends figure before. You won't have to ever really worry about him falling down much. You can even see it here. He hasn't really budged once from his position. That's because he is just pretty solidly sculpted. I do like this six-pack, though, and that is kind of comic book accurate, too. It's weird to say, but it is kind of accurate. So in terms of accessories, this Iron Man does come with those other hands, as we mentioned. I'm going to actually put those other hands back in because that ties into his other set of accessories, those 6 different translucent effects that he has for his various repulsor beams. And the nice thing about these hands, too, is it can also kind of look like he's flying and he's using his hands to propel himself upwards. That's why they kind of are this way, just as much as they are for him shooting beams out. So there are 6 different ones here. We'll start with these smaller flat ones first to show you how that looks. They go in very simply as well, just like that. And they're in. That's how those look. Pretty cool. But you can see that there's a little hole in the middle of them too, and that is meant to be attachments for these other pieces here, which looks like they just slide on into that. And now these repulsor beams just got, well, I don't want to say more repulsive, but they definitely got more powerful, that's for sure. And that's how that looks right there. We can pop those out now and put in some kind of more in-between beams as well. And lastly, I'm going to try and see if we can just actually separate these pieces here and see if those go into his hand as well. I think they will. Yeah, okay, those go in too. So you get 6 different beam effects. I think that's actually pretty cool. And this is something they're doing a lot more with the Iron Man toys now, is they're putting a lot more beam effects in them. In fact, there's a War Machine that just came out recently, which I might get as well, that has a ton of these, as well as some other missile effects and things like that. And yeah, it really works. And again, you can see here what I mean about him kind of blasting off. In fact, I wonder, this Iron Man does have peg holes, and I'm wondering if these will fit in there as well. They do. Okay. So we can put these into his feet. And let's say we'll put these back in his hands too. So there you go. It actually looks like he's kind of blasting off. That's really neat. This Iron Man review might not be the most in-depth review I've ever made. And that's because, quite frankly, there isn't a lot to do with him. It is a very simple, basic figure. There's some new pieces. Overall, though, it's a lot of stuff we've seen in the past in Marvel Legends. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing that different. And really, you could probably skip this toy if you're not a fan of Iron Man. If you are a fan of Iron Man, I think you're going to obviously want to be adding this to your collection to keep that Hall of Armor growing. But if you're not really that into it, yeah, it's definitely skippable. For me, it is one of my favorite armors, so I had to get this one. But really, it's not the most interesting of Marvel Legends figures, and I own plenty more that I think are way more interesting, even from an Iron Man perspective. But I'm not saying that in a down way either. I don't mean that this is a figure you shouldn't buy. I'm just saying nothing that crazy to look at here. I like all the different repulsor beam effects that it has. I like the different hands. I think it's worth it just for that too. It comes with a lot of cool things you could add to that figure, and I imagine there's other toys you can use it with too. Having closed fists also does make it a little bit more different, so he doesn't need to always have those hands in that repulsor beam position. Really, what would have put this toy over the edge for me as being more excellent and much higher recommend is if it had a Tony Stark head sculpt. And I know they did an Iron Man recently that did have that, and that is, again, a more classic style Iron Man look. So if you already got that figure, then boom, you're perfect. If you don't, well, you're out of luck. Or are you? Because Diamond Select also just recently put out a Silver Centurion Iron Man, and it is in their 7-inch scale, so it's going to be an inch bigger than what you're seeing right now on screen, but that one actually does have a head sculpt that comes with it, as well as a few other different things that this toy doesn't. So if you're looking to get something that's a little bit more maybe comic book accurate and has some more features, the Diamond Select one might be the one for you. But if you're a hardcore Marvel Legends collector and you don't want to change the scale, you don't want to get out of that lineup, then yeah, if you're gonna have your Hall of Armor be complete, you need to get this figure. Otherwise, it's probably a pass, even though it is a personal favorite for me. So yeah, it's definitely a figure that works more for some collectors, more so than others. I think one of the problems when you have a Silver Centurion figure with Iron Man is that in the comics, he is red and he is silver, but the one thing that's very different is that you can have shading, and often there is a lot of black to help complement the figure and help create the shapes and forms of Iron Man. With this toy, you don't get any of those black shades, you have to rely on the red, and that might be where it just looks a little bit basic. And there's not really any good way to integrate those blacks into this toy either. So you're going to have to kind of use your imagination, and unfortunately, I don't think imaginations and the way the comic book looks are going to really merge together that well this time around. And that's probably why this figure ended up being a Walgreens exclusive and not a mass release elsewhere, because it probably would warm pegs if it was out in mass release. It isn't really interesting visually whatsoever. Besides the shoulder pads maybe, that's about it. And if it wasn't for my enjoyment of this armor, it would be definitely a hard pass for me too. So those are just a few things to keep in mind about why this thing might not look as good as really it should. If you want to find this Iron Man, I am pretty positive he's exclusive only to Walgreens, so you're going to have to look for him in Walgreens stores near you, which shouldn't be too hard to find. So let me know what you think about this Silver Centurion Iron Man, if you think it's actually worth your money. And if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe to us. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and it's time for Iron Man to blast off.